I'm going to answer a viewer's question. Back about the top of June, I replaced the old Eldebrock, I guess 1406 carburetor on my 55 here with a Chinese knockoff. Now, this was an experiment that I did on purpose just to see if the Chinese knockoff was going to be worth a diddly damn. And so I did so with a little antsy about doing that. Even though it's considerably cheaper than a new Eldebrock, it still was about $150, and that's not chicken feed in my garage. But I thought, well, if it doesn't work, I can get a kit. And of course, the Eldebrock and the Carter AFB series, those are really easy to put a kit in, rebuild them if you take your time. And so I'd been having trouble. It was surging, just driving down the road. It was not feeding fuel very well. It was just not running well at all. The idle was up and down. And I think it just really needed a rebuild. And of course, the kits are not super expensive. And so after looking at videos about how to do it, I thought, well, I'll just rebuild it. But instead, I saw on eBay and other sites, the Chinese knockoffs. And I thought, well, I'm going to give this a shot. And I thought it might be decent content. Now, I've watched reviews from other content creators here on YouTube. And a lot of the things they say, especially the guys who are carburetor specific, and I can't remember the name of the guy that I follow pretty closely, who is really, really good on carburetors. And I learned so much from this guy. I learned I don't want to get a Holly carburetor. And I've learned that there's a good lesson to be had. And I'd learned this lesson years ago. You don't want to run more carburetor than you need. You know, that 850 Holly double pumper looks great on top of that intake, but does your 350 with a very mild cam really need that kind of fuel? Probably not. And probably none of us who regularly just drive or just pleasure cruisers really don't need high performance carburetors. And of course, the 1406, the carburetor that I had, the original one, is not a performance carburetor, but but out of the box, new. I mean, it's a good carburetor for what you need. You know, and this the 55 has a mild cam. It's kind of got a lope to it, nothing radical, because it's, well, for one thing, it needs a good vacuum for the power brake system. So I wouldn't get very radical anyway. This was a grand experiment. I'm not going to waste $150, send it to China for a carburetor that may or may not be worth a diddly damn. Well, I took that chance. And so anyway, let's pop the hood, air cleaner off, and we'll take a look at my Chinese Eldebrock knockoff. All right, guys, that's my Chinese Eldebrock knockoff. I installed it at the top of June. So the $64,000 question is, how's it run? Well, actually, it runs really well. I have zero complaints with it. I put it on and then had to, get the idle set and the choke. And now the regular idle is a little high. It's about 900 RPM, and the cold idle is a little slow, about 600 RPM. And so I'm always afraid that it's going to die, but it never just at an idle will never die, even cold. So but it just runs great. There's no hesitation, no bogging down, no misfires, It's doing exactly the job it needs to do. Now, I was having trouble with the vacuum lines especially for the vacuum advance. Now I've got an older HEI distributor on here, and the vacuum line I have may be just a little bit big because it kept slipping off the vacuum advance port on the distributor. So I fixed that with a zip tie around the hose just to tighten it up enough so it would stay put. But it looks fine. It works just perfect. I can't complain at all. Now, I know it's a Chinese carburetor. I know it's probably not made to U.S. specs. I don't know that a 1406 carburetor kit would even fit. Now, with that said, the carburetor came with extra parts. It came with jets and some other spare parts. Um, and for all intents and purposes, it looks just like the Eldebrock carburetor and functions like it. Now, it doesn't have the spot for the label, and it does not use. One way to tell the difference, of course, without the label, is that the screws that hold this thing together are not Torx. They're just flat, I think, flathead screws or Phillips. Once I got the idle, fast and slow idle speed adjusted and the choke, it's been flawless and it's done a great job. Now, my wife and I, I ran this carburetor when we went to the Tri-5 Nationals, and that's a couple hours away round trip. Well, actually, a little more like 3 hours round trip. And on the highway, it just purred. It just did a fine job. And I know a purist may not like this, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've got my original Eldebrock and a kit to put in it, but I haven't done it. There's no need to. This thing is so far so good. Now, I would be interested in hearing other people's experiences with a new Chinese knockoff carburetor. Again, I can't say that there's any deficit with this carburetor other than the fact it was cheaper. Now, and I will tell you, that still pains me because I don't like the idea of shortchanging a U.S. based business, and there's a lot of irony here, if you ask me, because Eldebrock ended up with Carter, all their tooling and everything, when fuel injection was coming on big, and it looked like there'd be not much demand. Of course, for OEM, they didn't need carburetors anymore, but obviously the secondary market always is going to need carburetors. So Holly and Carter slash Eldbrock have a long positive future ahead. Now I have seen a lot of people in the Tri-5 community are running, Holly and other brand EFI, and I don't that looks promising to me to have a system on that would be electronic. But again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So and the EFI isn't cheap either. So there's plenty of us out here who are, hot rodding on a budget. I'd love to hear what the other field reports are of guys who are trying these, and you may be a little sheepish about admitting it, but hey, I'm not above giving it a try. So now I will tell you, I have a strong preference for the AFB style carburetor. So, and I kind of avoid Holly. Uh, just didn't have real good experience with Hollies in the past. So the Carter AFB is just simple to operate and simple to rebuild. So it's my go-to carburetor right now. All right, guys. Well, that's it. And if any other changes come up, I will certainly keep you apprised. All right, guys, this is just an addendum to the my review of the Chinese knockoff Eldebrock carburetor. It's still doing fine, but I saw something on another YouTube site, Uncle Tony's Garage, in fact, and Uncle Tony had some good advice. For starters, he suggested that if you're going to buy one of these Chinese carburetors, steer novices away from doing so because those carburetors may require a little tuning and maybe a little more help than the novice may be able to provide. Now mine went on great. The only thing I had to adjust was the idle speeds, hot and cold, and then the choke. And it's running like a top. Now, Uncle Tony also mentioned something else. Now, he was shopping for a Chinese knockoff carburetor for a Harley Davidson motorcycle he had acquired. And, he said they're just so cheap. You could get a new one for $35 and it would run like a top. So he never questioned necessarily the quality, but he did mention something else very important. He said that the Chinese knockoffs primarily are solid aluminum. Now, the carburetors that we get from manufacturers here in the States are an alloy. And the difference is important because according to Uncle Tony, the all aluminum carburetors are prone to corrosion once they're exposed to fuel for a period of time, especially if the fuel just sits in the bowl and if it's not used on a regular basis. So he suggested if you have a motorcycle or a vehicle and you're not going to be driving it on any kind of regular basis, that you remove the carburetor, drain it, and then mist it with WD-40, even into the vents, and wrap it up in a plastic bag, seal it, and just hang on to it till the next season, and then put it back on and drive away. So that's probably good advice. I haven't had mine long enough to experience the corrosion. He did note that the corrosion, that you could go in and clean out the corrosion, but it's going to come back. So if you can stop it in the first place, he said you're better off. You're miles ahead. So now I'm going to try to put a link to that video in the comments below so you can check that out. Anyway, I like Uncle Tony, and I would recommend subscribing to his site if you haven't already. Anyway, that was his advice, and now I will tell you, as an experiment, I am not going to take his advice. I'm going to leave the carburetor on my car all winter. Now I will start it and drive it a little bit, but nothing like through the summer months. So we'll see. We'll see about this corrosion and how bad it gets. I'm in it for $150, and I've got another carburetor over here on the bench that needs a rebuild kit. So I may be out $150, but it's been a good experiment. And so we'll see just how the carburetor lasts and how prone to corrosion it really is. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time from here inside the Shade Tree Garage.